Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Data Standard Audio Experience. I'm your host, Catherine Tao, and today we have Mark Connolly, a business intelligence lead at U Chicago Medicine. So, welcome to the show. Today, we're going to be speaking more about navigating the virtual work environment.
Awesome. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, definitely. Can you just go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us more about your background.
I'm Mark Connolly. I'm a BI lead at U Chicago Medicine, an organization and an academic medical center located in the south side of Chicago. My background is really, it's an interesting, at least I think, an interesting track. I started school and really went towards a bioengineering path through undergrad. And when I started, I thought I'd be designing wheelchairs for people. There's a lot of cool tech out there, and thought that's where my career was going to head. And over that, both undergrad and then some research experience that I got while in school, I started to really fall in love with data. I started to think about and see how it could be used to answer many questions, both in a research setting and then even more broadly for a health center or even at the level of a country. So it got me thinking about it, pivoting a little bit within my career, and ultimately went back to get a master's of engineering with a concentration in bioinformatics. And that really gave me the backbone and the background to do what I'm doing today at U Chicago Medicine. So excited to be here and talk about some of my experiences in navigating both what my career has looked like, as well as what it's looking like today, as a lot of us have shifted into this virtual work environment. And I think is very on brand for my career path of continuing to pivot and adjust along the way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially during this time for a lot of people, the remote world has been a very quick shift in just the normal life of going to the office every day. And your normal commute is completely cut out now. You're just kind of working from home, working in front of your laptop or computer. What are your thoughts about working in this current remote environment right now? Does it feel like things are easier or harder to kind of collaborate with your team members and connect with experts right now?
Yeah, I think that is such a good question. I know for me personally, I really like working remotely, but I think that's more because I lean towards being an introvert at heart. I do know that there are folks that are more extroverted, more passionate and excited about being in an office and working and being in a meeting room or on a whiteboard and collaborating in person. But for me, I found that working remotely has really allowed me to hone in on how I communicate best. It's allowed me to have a little more control over what my day to day looks like, and ultimately giving me that energy to deal with the types of requests and needs that our organization and my work hopes to address. I do think that I have had that opportunity, one, because of my career, and specifically the work that I do. It gave me that ability to work remotely. I know some folks don't have that opportunity and are really struggling right now. I also recognize that outside of my dog, I don't have anyone that I'm having to take care of right now. I don't have kids running around or anything like that. So it's definitely a situation that everyone has their different thoughts and feelings on, and I think everyone's valid in terms of what they're either struggling with or what they really enjoy. And it's hard to say that it's perfect. I think organizations have continued to adapt. Like you said, Catherine, this happened so quickly, and I think we should give ourselves credit for being able to adapt and figure out what this looks like. And thinking about what we were going to talk about today, for me, what I wanted to also call out is the fact that as a just human race, we have for the longest times had to go to do work. We had to be there physically in person to do any kind of work. And over the years and more recently, we started to find a little bit of a meld working remotely, but we've had this long period of time where we really could adapt and figure out how do we work best, what are the best things to do when we have people in the office and working together or in any kind of in-person environment for work. And I think we should give ourselves credit for being able to start to figure out some of those ways that we can work remotely and succeed while doing that. But I think that we're going to see over the next couple of years and even beyond, people are going to continue to tweak and improve the way that working remotely functions. So in short for this one, I find that working remotely has given me the opportunity to do what I do best, but I definitely sympathize with those folks that can't wait to get back in the office, whether it be in a hybrid setting or even full time.
Yeah, definitely. And do you kind of prefer this remote environment, or are you preferring more of this hybrid of sometimes going to the office a couple days a week and then sometimes just working remotely? What is your preference there?
Yeah, that's a good one too. My my preference would be working remotely, but then still seeing my coworkers, maybe not even in a work setting, but more of that kind of team building and type of mindset, whether it be like even like team happy hours, whether it be like trying to coordinate picnics and outings and things like that. That can make it tough if people are scattered across the country, obviously, but right now, we've been fortunate at the team that I'm on that everyone is still local. So there is a little bit of that kind of talk of even if we're not in the office, there's still that element of building a team that can happen not necessarily in an office, but not in your own home that I think I would probably lean towards. One of the things that I'm very interested in seeing how this happens broadly across any industry, whether it be in healthcare analytics or any other types of analytics or data fields, is how people manage to work with the hybrid model. Or I've felt fortunate in the sense that what I do, I'm developing dashboards, I'm creating data visualizations, and presenting something virtually on a Zoom or a WebEx, any of those types of calls. I know that someone's going to see exactly what I want them to see. They're not having to strain to see something on a screen. I don't have to coordinate finding a meeting room. It makes my life a little bit easier for the types of things that I present. But when we get to a hybrid state, you're going to have folks that are in a meeting in person in an office, and then you're going to have another set that are not necessarily in an office. And I think there's going to be this little bit of dance and or figuring out how we can best meld that. For me, I feel like it's very easy if you have everyone doing one thing or the other. That middle ground can be really difficult, and I think it's going to be something that we're going to work through. And even putting on more of the healthcare hat in this context, we work very closely with clinicians, whether it be doctors, nurses, managers. By nature of the work they do, they have to be on site. They are more times than not interacting directly with patients and going to be jumping in and out of appointments and then calls with us around data needs, all of those types of things. But we are going to have to figure out a way to make it work. I just anticipate that it's going to be a challenge initially to get through the hybrid model. It's I think a little harder than people might be anticipating.
Yeah, definitely. And that's some great insight there. And what do you think the work environment will look like post-pandemic, since a lot of things are starting to open up again right now, especially in the US anyway. Things are opening up again, especially with the vaccines kind of rolling out more efficiently now. Do you think that most companies will allow work from home or perhaps maybe more of a hybrid version post-pandemic? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my initial read is that in data analytics, data in general, software engineering, that kind of broad umbrella, I think we're going to start to see the standard be that folks are working remotely or that companies are offering remote and that flexibility. I know when you look at some of the larger companies, the Apples, the Googles, the Spotifys of the world, they've already come out with some types of kind of policies around whether or not they're going to be remote, on site, some flex. And I think there's that internal competition that's going to happen for a lot of top talent. And if you can offer the exact same pay, but one other company is offering the flexibility of working remotely, I think that could really drive the broader industry to continuing to offer that remote aspect. I do think within more of the analytics sphere in healthcare, that we'll probably see more of a hybrid approach, just because when you think about the amount of staff and people that work in healthcare, a lot of them do not have that ability just by nature of the work again to work remotely. So if the majority of your workforce in a given industry has to be there, I think it can make it difficult to outright say, everyone's got to be remote or everyone's got to be on site or everyone's on site. And I think you'll get a little bit more of a kind of a hybrid supporting model there. I do think the broader kind of shift towards working remotely does afford people an opportunity who have been introverted or who are introverted, for that matter. I think it can provide them an opportunity to really lead in a different work environment. I think historically, when you think of leaders, you think of people who are potentially extroverted, can be like big, personable personalities in an office, get a lot of great work done. But I, historically, I've always thought like leaders are that face, that voice. In a remote setting, I think it does level the playing field a little bit for an extrovert versus an introvert in terms of how they grow, how they lead, how they work. So I could see the shift happening and starting to have the introverts of the world have their shot at really driving change within their organizations. So I'm curious to see how it works out. I think, like you said, we continue to see numbers improve. I actually recently they're not improving as much, but when we're talking numbers across the country on there. So I think there's still going to be a little bit of feeling out, moving timelines, things like that. But definitely very curious. My sense is we'll see a lot more folks in the data world working remotely, but definitely a ways to go until we're there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I definitely think that a lot of companies will be opening it up to be more of a remote position or hybrid also, just because I think we've definitely proved within this last year that it is possible, even though it was super sudden. It was very quick change for a lot of different companies, not used to having everyone just work from home. But definitely, I think it might just continue post pandemic as well. And so I know that you work more in kind of the medical healthcare field. And how has everything kind of been impacted since the pandemic within your industry?
Yeah, so definitely have that kind of like national spotlight now in healthcare, and there are definitely many different things that were all impacted. I can't speak to the day to day that the clinicians that I work closely with for certain requests. That I can't speak to the clinical changes. I think some of the things that have been brought out publicly that I'm passionate about and I'm excited to see are being discussed are around some of the inequities in healthcare. I think for folks working in the healthcare space, it has been I'd say a known problem, but a problem that people have been actively working towards. But now it's at a national level where people are recognizing, for example, minority populations were hit harder by the pandemic than non-minority populations, and I'm hoping and excited to hopefully see this conversation continue and the work to continue to address it. Right now, we're talking COVID and then vaccine rollout, but there are many other conditions, whether it be heart failure, diabetes, hypertension management, all these different areas that the same types of structural flaws in healthcare that were highlighted with COVID, they still exist and still need to be addressed. And I think from an analytics space in healthcare, I think there's going to be a really cool opportunity to help advance a lot of that work. So I'm really excited about that. Not great that it took a pandemic to highlight that at the level that it has, but I do think that that is one of the larger things to come out. The other or another thing that was highlighted in the pandemic, like you had mentioned, everybody made the shift where you went from working in the office to working remotely, and not only was it where are you working, the priorities shifted, and I think just across the board, and it's not even healthcare at this point. Everyone's focused is COVID and how is it going to impact us. So if we can say like, how is it impacting our patients? How is it impacting our broader community and other organizations? Like say, how is it impacting the money we're making even? So everyone's focus and priority was immediately on the pandemic. And that gave us the ability to see what does it look like when you have everyone humming on the same tune, the same priority, how effective and efficient you can be, and really breaking down data silos within an organization. But in turn, it also did put pressure on places that overnight became key priorities and key things that we need to look at. So in the same way that COVID highlighted the potential inequities in healthcare, it also highlighted some of the things that we can do great and some of the things that we still have to work on in our space. And then the final thing that I really have experienced with this change and trying to continue to connect with the broader network and in different contexts that I have, hearing more and more people who are not necessarily from a healthcare background that are now really passionate or really excited or really want to change careers or the industries that they're in to come more into a healthcare space. They're seeing the types of things that the inequities in healthcare. They're seeing the impact of COVID and what it did to maybe their family, their community, and they are now recognizing that, hey, I've got the skill set that really could make a difference in this field. So that's another thing that I'm excited about. Again, I hate that it took a pandemic, but I think when you try to identify what are these positives moving forward, I do think and I'm hopeful for more and more folks with really strong data skill sets that are now finding a true passion, a true industry calling them, and they're ready to make that change.
Yeah, definitely. And it's very clear that the healthcare field, especially, has been definitely in the spotlight in this past year with everything going on. I just want to transition now,
Yeah.
and you mentioned to me offline how you were involved with a virtual data visualization contest titled Ironviz. So, do you want to just tell us more about this?
Yeah, happy to. So one of the products that I use in my work is Tableau. It's a data visualization software. The company of Tableau, they every year run the contest Ironviz, and it's an open, free to enter contest where they'll give you a prompt. This year, the topic I think was health and wellness, and then they kind of let you run wild a little bit. They may point you in a direction of where you can get data. You're welcome to utilize your own data. You do have to be thoughtful about patient privacy, so no one's using anything that might be internal, but it's kind of an open-ended forum. They grade the entries on a few different things like how the data are presented, the story that you have, and things like that. And at the end of it, they identify several winners or several finalists, and then they do a broader presentation of the work at their annual conference. For me, while I didn't win, I was really passionate about the field, the topic, and had this idea to present a data visualization that highlights my health journey and how it actually ultimately led to me working in this field. So for me, and people don't know this when I first obviously start working with them, but I'm a childhood cancer survivor. So I spent a lot of my time growing up in and out of hospitals, in and out of surgeries, physical therapy, and during that experience, I really got to see what healthcare looked like, but I also saw folks that honestly were not as lucky as me and not as fortunate as me in terms of the conditions and the things that they were going through. And these are kids, but also like older adults. And it really kind of shaped what I wanted to do with my career. I always knew healthcare, but I didn't know necessarily exactly where I fit. But that experience for me and the fact that it really did lead to the career gave me this idea that what I'd like to do for the Ironviz submission was highlight some of the data around how many people have had my diagnosis, how many people survived at my age, at the age of 5, what are long-term effects, and what are people doing around my diagnosis, I guess. So presented that into a data visualization. It's available on Tableau Public today, so it's easy to access. If you just search my name on that platform, it should come up. Was something I was definitely really excited about. I think the new theme that I'm running with here in the last couple of questions that I know we've been talking about is finding those things that really drive your passion. And for me, it was that health experience, but also recognizing the skill set. And the Ironviz is a nice little mind meld of all of that together.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much for sharing more about your story and your background throughout this podcast. It was so great to have you on the show today, Mark, and such a pleasure to have you. Where can everybody find you online to connect with you?
So I'm on a few different things that you can find me. You can always follow me on Twitter at Mark Connolly 2. Somebody beat me, so there's at Mark Connolly 2. I'm also available to connect on LinkedIn. It's the usual LinkedIn. I think it's /IN/M Connolly 1993. And then I also do have a blog that's focused a little bit more on the data visualization side, how I might be leveraging Tableau and some tips there. And that blog is themillennialanalyst.com.
All right, awesome. And to our audience, for more information on the data standard, you can find us at www.datastandard.io, as well as on our LinkedIn and YouTube channel. And this episode is sponsored by Pandio. They're the hot new startup working on an Apache Pulsar messaging system to help your company be more AI and data driven. So you can check out their work at pandio.com. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. Such a pleasure to have you today on the show, and I definitely hope to have you again soon on the show.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me.